Welcome to the Authorpreneur podcast, where we talk to authors and business owners about how they are using books to market themselves and their businesses. I'm your host, Chris Green, and in each episode of the Authorpreneur podcast, we talk to a successful author and business owner to see exactly how they are using their books and author status to grow their businesses and serve their customers. We'll talk about what's working, the benefits of becoming a published author, and we may even come up with some creative new marketing strategies. In this episode of the Authorpreneur podcast, I talk with Everett O'Keefe, author of The Power of the Published, How Rapidly Authoring a Book Can Ignite Your Business and Your Life. Everett is a Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and international #1 best-selling author, and his most recent solo work is The Power of the Published. He has helped to create and launch more than 100 best-selling books for his clients. He speaks across the country on the power of publishing and is the founder of Ignite Press, a hybrid publishing company that specializes in helping entrepreneurs as well as business and medical professionals ignite their businesses by becoming best-selling authors. Everett has won multiple awards, including the Publish and Profit Award for Excellence in Publishing, the Make, Market, and Launch It Award for Product Creation, and the Top Gun Consulting Award, among others. He is the co-founder of the Business Accelerator Group, a high-level mastermind group composed of international marketers and publishers, and also founded the Mastermind Retreat to host international mastermind events. In 2019, Everett founded the Book Publishers Network, a group of publishers, publishing consultants, book coaches, and other book professionals. In 2020, he founded the Publishers Mastermind in order to help support publishing professionals from around the world. Everett is sought out as a speaker, coach, and consultant by authors and marketing experts worldwide. With a passion for entrepreneurialism, Everett helps his clients become recognized experts in their fields through speaking and authorship, while allowing his clients to focus on their own areas of giftedness. Everett and I are both authors, marketers, and publishing advocates, and I really think it comes through in this episode. Enjoy. They want to get published. They know they have a book in them. They understand the power of books for marketing, and they're going to use it for a lead magnet and build this whole thing. And then they're like, all right, well, pick a streaming service. And then they're like, oh, man, because now they have to make that decision between StreamYard and Riverside and Zoom. And do they need a community? Are they like a paid community, a free community, Facebook group, a school group? I've tried to explain to my kids the idea of decision fatigue. And I explain it to a lot of authors when I talk to them. I'm like, you have to decide. You have to decide your cover, your trim size, your page count, your chapter titles, your paper color, your font, and it can be exhausting. And I worry that it does prevent a lot of people from moving forward faster because they're stuck on should it be 6x9 or 5.5 by 8.5. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm happy to help,
Right.
but you see people struggle over some of these small decisions. I'm guessing you see a lot of that as well.
Yeah, and of course we're knocking a bunch of those out during one meeting, and trying to prep them ahead of time to make some of those decisions. But like you said, a lot of them are just simply preference decisions, and they're not critical to the success of the book.
No,
it's like,
but they don't realize that, so they're thinking like glossy or matte. Like, is that going to affect the success of my book?
Impact my sales. Oh, yeah.
You're like, it really isn't. It really isn't. Actually, before we go too much further, for people who I mean, let us know a little bit about yourself and your company, Ignite Press, just to put it in context. As basically, we're two book marketers who are going to talk about books and marketing.
Right. Yeah. Pardon me. And so, by the way, is what we're recording now going to be used, or are we? This is pre, and then we're going, or?
I started at the beginning because I knew,
Love it.
You never know what we're going to get, and anything you want to take out, we can edit out. So.
No, that's just totally fine. It just helps to know when I'm on the air and not, right? Just ask the politicians with the hot mics.
Hot mics, so. Sure. No, we're hot. Everything's hot.
Yeah. So Ignite Press, we're a hybrid publishing company, and we work primarily with speakers, coaches, consultants, business executives, really people who want to have a book in the market to help cement their authority and expertise that they're going to utilize, they're going to leverage within their brand. But also typically not DIYers. I mean, there are people that are capable of doing DIY, but they know that their real areas of giftedness are in their business or brand, rather than trying to figure out whether to be gloss or matte and what platform to publish on, and, handling all the details of hiring and managing editors and layout and all of that. So that really in a nutshell covers it, except that when we publish for our clients, we set everything up in accounts that they own. so that all royalties flow directly to them. They have complete ownership of their IP, and the ability to exercise that ownership. And then they get their books at cost, which can be like $3 each, $2.35 each, I think is the minimum. And that's whether they buy one or five. So these are the types of things that we do and the types of people we work with.
No, that sounds honestly fun all day long to help somebody say, hey, you can do it yourself. However, you are good at this. We are good at this. So if you want to work together, that's great. I love the fact. So I'm assuming you just set up their own KDP account for them if they're trying to publish through
Yeah,
Amazon.
we'll actually use several. We'll use KDP, Ingram, and Draft to Digital, and we'll set them up in all of those so that they have, it's kind of like as each platform has different strengths. And so we try to leverage each platform's best strengths. It also provides a level of redundancy. I mean, gosh, during COVID, when paper got short, right?
Like
Having
30 days to ship an author copy or something like.
yeah, having the ability to bounce between two platforms is really helpful during that time.
Yeah, no, I'd forgotten about that. Where like the shipping times on KDP, they're like independent, like self-published books, was 3+ weeks. And
It
credit
was
credit to Amazon for telling the customer that. Like I've worked closely with Amazon since like 2005. It's been a while. And so like, having the if you order within 9 hours, get this tomorrow. That costs money. That's not free. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but it costs more than zero for Amazon to put that on the page because they have to track things and there's just more going on behind the scenes. But they do that like not just to incentivize sale. To me, it incentivizes like, oh shoot, you mean if I order this today, I can actually get it tomorrow? Sweet, because I forgot it's late. Thank you for telling me. I will place my order right now. I will not wait until tomorrow just in case. But
instead of
also
thinking
see,
about it, forgetting, or choosing to look at some other source.
yeah. And
You
then by the
know,
time you do order it, it doesn't get here in time because of
yeah,
whatever shipping delays. But even Amazon saying, look, this item isn't going to ship for 21 to 28 days. Some people might see that as a negative to be like, oh, screw you, Amazon. Are you kidding? Why would I ever order this? But Amazon's telling you, look, if you need this quick, don't buy it. We're telling you this is how long it's going to take. And it's similar to, and I remember the first time I saw this when it was a book that I already purchased. And I go to the Amazon product page and Amazon says, hey, you already bought this, man. And I'm like, Amazon is telling me not to buy this. Amazon is pushing away a sale because they value the customer experience. Because how frustrated would you be to get this book and you're like, oh, for Pete's sakes, I bought this like 6 years ago. I already have this. And now you have a bad experience. And Amazon's like, look, you can buy it again if you want. Like, we don't care. But we're just letting you know. And I've actually, one of my books that I do author copies with, it says at the top, you have bought this book 1,700 times. Are you sure you want to buy it again? I'm like, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing. And I love that they do that because I take that as a screenshot and share it as like, guys, you can use author copies to fulfill orders if you want to. It's not the fastest, but it is an option. And actually do it to 8 different countries. And people are like 8 different countries. I didn't know that. Like I said, look, because I actually do it. I have placed almost 2,000 individual orders for this book. And then you have
wow,
to also explain to them, don't use your Amazon Prime account because that's against terms of service. This is what an author copy is. You do have to pay shipping. It's $3.59. Unless it's Alaska or Hawaii, then it's $5.59. And all these little details add up to where they look at you like, all right, this guy knows what he's talking about.
yeah,
I'm like, yes, I
absolutely.
do know what
We've
I'm
been
talking about.
there.
It's that last 5% of knowledge where like I feel people could learn 90% about self-publishing in like a week on YouTube, right? Like maybe less. Like it's not
Yep.
really not that hard. It's that last 5% where you understand the real details, how it works, how to leverage different platforms, why people respond to a free Kindle offer or a Kindle countdown deal, or how to leverage author copies. Those are the things that, the real people that are like, yes, please tell me how to do this. I want to hire you as a company. I want to hire you as an expert.
Right. Yeah, really
As I
excellent.
list those things off, I can tell you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Excellent perspective. The last 5%. You know, and the deal is with self-publishing, and this is what scares a lot of people away from self-publishing, right? Is that you can do so many things right, but if you do one thing wrong, depending on what that one thing is, it could be significant. You can write the best book, you could have the best editor, but if your layout's cruddy, you're going to have a bad book, bad experience. Or if your layout's great, but your cover's cruddy, then you may have a disappointing experience. And so it is a challenge. I have to, by the way, commend you. You recently posted an article about editors and about whether your book was good enough to
Good enough.
publish.
Yeah.
And I loved one of the phrases you said. You said something like, you believe that and I'm going to botch your phrase, but you said something like a a published poorly edited book is better than a not published book.
Yeah.
And maybe you didn't say poorly, maybe you said a not perfectly edited book, but published is better than a not published perfect book. And that's true all day long. And I love that because you were giving your people permission to move forward, because so many people have such fear, right, about getting their book out. And we see it all the time, and I'm sure you have too. They've been working sometimes for years on a manuscript. We're taking them all the way through the copy editing process. It's gone through a few rounds of copy editing. We're in layout. We have gone through 2 or 3 rounds of layout. It is ready for us to like push the button. And they're like, they're
That's scary. Actually push the button,
yes, they're
actually go
so
live,
scared.
actually put it out there for the world to
Yeah.
criticize.
Yeah.
It's scary. You know?
Yeah. It
Honestly,
happened.
I'm glad you found that article, because I did receive some pushback on that, which is why I phrased it. I tried to phrase it
I'm
very
sure you did. I'm sure you
diplomatically.
did.
Yeah, saying, look, this is my opinion. If you disagree with me, I completely understand. A edited book is every single time better than a non-edited book. I agree with you. However, I'm in a lot of free Facebook groups. I don't know if you join free Facebook groups to try to help. It like sometimes drives me crazy, but I try to help people as much as I can. But there are so many. Now, I'm sure you've seen all the same kind of hangups that people have, where they're like, they don't know how to move forward. Should I use Ingram Spark, or should I use Drafted Digital or KDP? And they can't move forward without it. It's these small things that they kind of get hung up on, to where I try to tell them, like, it's fine. Like, it really, you can always go back and change things. None of these things are exclusive. You can always take it down. You can try again. But getting out there and getting over that that
Yeah.
definite fear that people have. Um, and I feel I love that you use the word permission, because I frequently say, like, people say, like, what do you do? And I try to explain, like, it's almost hard to explain what I do, but I do say that I often, if I could give it away for free, I would, but if I even have to charge for it, I give people confidence and permission, because it's hard to see yourself. And a lot of people it's rare for someone to walk around and be like, oh, I am a freaking expert in this. Like, if someone says that, you're almost like, whoa, slow down a little bit, right? Because real experts don't walk around telling everybody how smart they are,
They
right?
usually
Like,
don't have to.
right. And if they do say something, they're like, hey, maybe someone knows more about this, but, this is what I think. And, there's probably someone smarter in the room, but, my experience has been, they're even hedging their bets when they're actual experts. But confidence and permission is what people need. They need someone that they look up to, whether it's a company or an individual or a celebrity. Uh, and if they get that permission from them, it says, like, yeah, I believe you can do that. Oh, yeah, I love your idea. Or, like, yeah, something
Yeah.
I've frequently said to people is that they tell me a little bit about their story, and I'll tell them, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of your story because it's so marketable. And they're like, really? You think my story is marketable? And I'm like, I am jealous. I wish it was my story. I would market the heck out of that, because I see it from outside their point of view, to where I'm like, your story will get people's attention. Your story will identify, and maybe not with everybody, but definitely within, this segment of the market. You can get attention with your story. And if you can get attention and you have a book, you have a business. And they don't see it because it's just them. Like, when you're an expert in something, it's hard to sometimes realize that you're an expert, because
You're
you just
stuck
feel
in
like
the
yourself.
trees.
Yeah, you're like,
Hmm.
this is just what I know. I don't feel like I have special knowledge in my head. It's just, I really like self-publishing, so I learned everything about it. I enjoy helping people with it, but I don't feel like an expert, even though, like, conceptually I know that I know a lot about a topic that can help people. I don't feel
It's
any
that
different
whole
than anybody else.
pretender syndrome or whatever the heck they call it. I
Oh,
can't remember.
imposter syndrome. Oh, that's my next book.
Imposter syndrome. Thank you. Um, I think it visits you from like I remember there was a career I started when I was young. It was as a vocational rehab counselor, and I did that for 30 years, and I still felt like I was an imposter. And it's kind of crazy. And we've been doing publishing now for we've published I think we've crossed the 150 mark, and sometimes I still feel that, and I totally get it. One of the things I talk about, one of my books is called The Power of the Published, and in the back I talk about expert status, because the truth is that, like, you have a message to share with people, and there are people out there that are specific, their ears are tuned, their experiences have prepared them to hear that message best from you. You may not know them, they may not know you, but there's something about your experience and delivery and their experience and readiness to receive it that you guys will connect on a level unlike anybody else. And so if you're not sharing that message, they're not going to hear it. They may not hear it from anybody else. And so when people ask themselves, well, who am I? Who am I to hold myself out as an expert, or who am I to carry this message? Well, I would say, who are you to withhold it?
I
Because
love that.
if you're not sharing it, then you're withholding it from people. So who are you to withhold it? I think that is the more selfish play. So I just like, absolutely, people get it out there and don't worry if it's perfect, because it will never be perfect. No book ever published has been perfect. And so you've got to get it out into the marketplace. And it doesn't mean go publish something that's crappy, but you got to get it out there.
Yeah, you still have to put out a quality product. I found, and it really is one of my next books that I have on my list to write, and it's at the top, is about imposter syndrome, specifically for authors. And I feel I've identified five main exceptions that people come across where they think it's going to be too hard, it's too expensive, and they're all based in reality. Like it used to be, it is hard. It's not the easiest thing, but it's not impossibly hard. It did used to cost a lot of money. But I do find people think that if there's already a book about it, it's already like someone's already written the best book about this. And I'm like, I don't care. Like that's an excuse, right?
Right. The book's
Because like
already out there. So
what
yeah.
when I know people, I've gotten pretty good at pushing people pretty hard if I know them well enough. If I know that I can push back on them, and say, look, that's an excuse, right? Because how many books do you have? Like someone who's training for triathlons, how many books about triathlons do you think they have? One? No,
Right.
they probably have a dozen, right? Like whatever the topic is, there are multiple books, multiple points of view. And even if you only help a small segment, even if your book doesn't become the go-to book in your subject, that doesn't mean that you didn't help people. That doesn't mean you didn't sell thousands of copies. It didn't mean that you didn't make money or build a community or whatever you're trying to do with the book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when you realize those things, like, wait a minute, I can help just one person. Yes, you can. I would be shocked if anybody self-published something and if they followed some basic strategies on social media, sold zero books, right? Like
Right.
I would find that hard to believe. I have yet to meet somebody who I feel doesn't have what I would even say. I say I would specialize in helping people self-publish around knowledge that they have that can be turned into a business. And if you follow the steps right, I would say almost everybody has a six-figure business in them that they can build through a book, but they have to identify what they're good at. They have to structure it in a way where they can help people generally make or save money. And if you do that, you're going to attract enough people to be able to support you at a six-figure level. Now, maybe not $1 million. Not every idea is $1 million idea. But if you break it down over 12 months, and if you break it down over how many members you need to have in a community at what price point, it's very achievable to where you're literally finding a few hundred people out of the planet who you have a message for, who you can help. You can help them make money. You can help them save money. You can help them get better at something. You can help them develop a skill, whatever it is. And there are people who will pay you for that.
Yeah.
And it goes, a lot of it goes back to the belief thing, where they have to believe that's actually possible, because they might have a low view of themselves or think like, oh, no one would pay me, or like, so it's a little bit of a process.
Yeah.
But once they see it and they have a little bit of a confidence boost, they're kind of
Yeah.
off and running.
I have a pertinent story. So the first book I ever wrote and published was called The Video Tractor Beam. It says, dominate your field and attract new clients and customers with online video. So we had a marketing company, and that was the beginning of Ignite Press. But at that time, we weren't doing publishing. We were doing video marketing and SMS marketing and stuff like that. And I'd been going to a number of marketing conferences, and I'd been seeing a number of people get up on stage. Oh, I'm the number one best-selling author, and I've done blah, 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 blah. So I was learning about self-publishing, and I went, let's do this thing. So I called my business partner. I said, hey, Monday, let's meet in the conference room. We're going to write a book. And he said, what are we going to write about? And I go, I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. So Monday we sat down and we said, okay, what do we know the most about that we'd like to write a book about? And we decided it was video marketing. It was like new stuff we just knew right off the top of our head. So we wrote down 20 frequently asked questions. We plopped a microphone on the table and we dictated the answers to these 20 questions. Now, I'm not necessarily going to recommend the next steps, but this is what I did. Okay. So we had it transcribed. I do recommend that. And then I edited it, and then I laid it out. John made the cover. Um, we published it through CreateSpace at the time, which would now be KDP. And 30 days later, I mean, it was 30 days from sitting down at the conference table to the day we launched. And and we followed an Amazon launch sequence so that it became a #1 best-selling book in entrepreneurialism, in small business marketing. And I'm sitting there seeing my book above Dave Ramsey and John Maxwell and Malcolm Gladwell and all these, and it just kind of blew my mind. Now, I look back at this book now. It's a pretty cruddy book. I'm just going to be honest with you. You can barely call it a book because it's so short. And it is poorly edited because this guy edited it. It is poorly laid out because this guy laid it out. And it did absolutely everything we wanted it to do. It brought us our first 5-digit client. It put us on the map, and I had people coming to us with, "Hey, how'd you do that? I'd like to, I need a book too." And honestly, this little cruddy book became the start of Ignite Press. And now, 150 best-selling books later, I feel like I'm really glad I did this pretty poor book. And so I really, it's one of the reasons I'm also a huge fan of self-publishing. Obviously, our clients aren't self-publishing, in the sense that we're helping them and carrying them along the journey because they're, like I said, they're not DIYers. But I'm a huge fan for those people who will, because that was, like I said, it's the foundation for our business, the start of our business. So, like, yes, please go, go, go. No stops, just goes.
Well, your story reminds me of something. I don't know if you know Matt Higgins. He was on Shark Tank. He's a friend of Nick's.
Okay. Yeah, I probably recognize him.
Yeah, you'd recognize him. So he released a book recently called "Burn the Boats." Tells his whole story. And one thing that I kind of pulled out of the book that I found the most valuable is he describes it as proprietary insights. And he's probably not the first person to come up with it. But like what you're seeing is like you're at an event or something. You're like, wait a minute, I'm seeing how easy it is to publish a book, and I'm seeing, wait a minute, that book could be used to acquire clients and get leads for my business. And you put those two things together instead of what's self-publishing. Like, just Google it. Like, you don't need me if you just want to know what self-publishing is. But if you want to know how to use self-publishing to create lead magnets and funnels, and like, yes, it's a deeper conversation, and you might need some help with it. But I'm putting together proprietary insights of saying, oh my gosh, because I come from an Amazon background. I had an eBay background to an Amazon background. You know what I mean by FBA with Amazon?
Yeah. Oh yeah, fulfilled by Amazon.
I was one of the first FBA sellers on
Wow.
Amazon. Because I was a Prime member. Amazon used to tell you when you joined Prime. The month Amazon Prime came out, I joined because I was like, "Are you kidding me? Free 2-day shipping?" Because like, again, my kids are like 16 to 17 or 16 to 14. They don't know what it's like to order something on the internet, and UPS ground shipping from Seattle to Boston is going to be 5 to 6 days. So it might be a Monday. No, it's not even get there that week. You got
And
to go
even
on.
that was fast.
Yeah, like we
Even
were
that,
happy.
even that was fast. Remember when, I mean, now dating me at least, you would find there would be something listed in the newspaper. In fact, I remember, well, actually, perfect example. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder here, this guy with a suit of armor on. Okay. So I've
Yeah.
got this, for anyone just listening who isn't getting video, there's a suit of armor behind me. That breast and back plate I had made for me. Okay. And, in the day, it wasn't like you could jump on the internet and there'd be some random site. It was like listed in some random newspaper in the back section in the want ads or whatever, and then yeah. So yeah, our kids just have no idea, and that's fine. Now I feel like I'm, my grandpa saying, walking the snow uphill 8 miles both ways. So I guess
No,
I
I
should
think
say,
it's important to keep some of this stuff in mind because it's an example of how when you truly understand something, then you understand why something works. I wrote a whole book, The Authorpreneur Blueprint, where I have a section where I describe you have to understand why something works. Like I can describe you FBA. Like I made a career off of FBA, but like not tell you what it is, tell you why it matters. Tell you why you have to have a prime eligible listing for your product if you want to succeed today. You don't have to sell on Amazon. No one cares. Amazon doesn't care. However, there's a lot of customers who will only buy from Amazon, and of those customers who will only buy Prime eligible offers from Amazon. So if you're not being sold by Amazon as a distributor, you need to use FBA or find someone to use FBA and let them sell your product, whatever it might be. And it's those kind of things. And again, like I was an early Prime member because I was buying online earlier than most. Like even paper towels and stuff. I was like, "You serious? I don't have to go to Target. Amazon will deliver these for free." Like, of course I'll do that. And of course, my friends and neighbors are like, "Why don't you just go to the store?" I'm like, "Because I don't have to." And like, I was just a little bit of an early adopter on that stuff. Of course,
Well,
now
and
everybody,
think about the people who really discovered that during COVID,
sure,
right?
like it's been
And
accelerated now. Yeah,
yeah, and now some people have hung with it, right? My niece, she just orders everything from from Walmart. It was like, oh, if it's $50 and they deliver more, they deliver it all for free. So they just put an order together. They never go shopping.
yeah.
Like, wow,
You save your time.
you know?
They've gotten good
Yeah,
enough at delivering this stuff. So
yeah,
it's having this kind of insight because as an early Prime member, I saw the value of free 2-day shipping, and I was like, so it's then when I see FBA, I'm like, wait a minute, my products that I'm shipping myself right now, and it's taking me hours every day to pack up all the hundreds of boxes for every order. Wait a minute, it's now Amazon's going to do all that work, and it's going to be Prime eligible, and I look at the fee structure, and I'm like, and I'm going to make more money. Yeah, I'm all in. So I sent
yeah.
all my inventory to
And I
FBA, and
don't
then I'm
have
like,
to in your
yeah,
garage doesn't have to be filled with boxes and
yeah.
packing materials.
It was such a no-brainer at the time. And there were people who were like, at the time I was in like different groups, selling books and selling different things, who were saying like, no, FBA, like, I don't trust Amazon to do that. I'm good enough. I'm shipping faster. And I'm like, I feel you guys are missing the point here that this is a winner of a program. People are going to buy my Prime eligible item possibly for a higher price than your non-Prime eligible item. And
Mm,
history showed that I was right. Like I could have been wrong, but at the time I was all in. I was like, no, you can't convince me otherwise of this. So it becomes a little bit of that's where I'm going with the proprietary insight. Is like then when you see KDP and you're like, wait a minute, now this is a print on demand physical product that's Prime eligible,
mm,
and when it sells, I don't do any work and I get money. It's coming from a buy inventory, prep it, send it
yeah.
in, have to spend money on inventory, have
Yeah.
returns. Like, no, no, no. This is better. I like
Yeah. In
this.
fact, Chris, for anyone who's dropped into this podcast and does not yet know what print on demand is, do you mind if I give it a quick
Yeah,
gloss?
go for it.
Yeah. So now we have this technology of print on demand, and this is what I consider to be an author's best friend. Amazon no longer houses your files. I'm sorry, they don't house your book. They house the files for your book. And so there's no standing inventory cost. It's not taking up place, and no book is printed that isn't sold, basically. And so then when someone orders your book, Amazon prints and ships that one book, and does it incredibly quickly, usually the next day, and very affordably. And that means also you as an author get to order author copies very affordably, as little as $2.35, depending upon the size and format and length of your book. And then you have complete freedom what to do with those. You can sell them, you can give them, you can put them on consignment at a bookstore, you can do whatever you want with them. Whereas in traditional publishing, if you were to get author copies from your publisher, they would come with strings attached. They do not want you to sell them except in very limited circumstances. They certainly don't want you to put them in consignment at a bookstore because then you cut them out. They really don't want you to give them away because, again, you're taking away from bookstore sales. Oh, and you're going to pay $8 for that same book that you might have paid $3 for. And so it's really a challenge. So print on demand is your best friend. And it also means gone are the days of having to buy a pallet of books to get
Gosh.
your books at a decent unit price. And then I don't visit your house 10 years from now and go into your garage and find you still have half a pallet of books, but now they're water damaged or eaten by bugs or, whatever. So and because of print on demand, you as an author, if you're speaking somewhere, which is a lot of our clients are doing speaking, you don't have to stuff books in your trunk or a suitcase. You can just have them drop shipped to meet you at your speaking destination. It is a modern day miracle, and now they do it even with hardcovers, and so says just such a fantastic thing, and love it. So glad they do it.
I've done presentations about KDP from the stage, and I say all the benefits of it, and like I get excited because like it's free, and then people come up to me afterwards. They don't rush the stage, but I usually get a bunch of people come up to the stage afterwards, and they're like, "Hey, that was really cool," but they have this happened multiple times. They come up and they do this like look over both sides, but what's it really cost? I'm like, what are you talking about? You think I got up here on the stage and like told you something that wasn't true? Like, go look. Like, this is completely free. And I think people
That's
don't, again, they don't
hilarious.
realize like why it, like what, who cares if it's free? Well, if it's free, you
Right. They
can
think that
test.
there's got to be a monthly cost at least, or
Oh,
some
Amazon
minimum order, or
and
you know
Amazon
that.
could. And this goes back to like my history with Amazon of like if you had told me Amazon's the most customer centric customer and or company and they put the customer first and all this stuff, like it sounds like platitudes, it sounds like pandering. It's like, oh, every company's going to say that. But in my experience, Amazon lives it. Amazon is dead serious. Amazon will kick a seller off of the platform if they do anything that provides a bad experience to the customer. They will kick authors off the platform if what they're doing provides a bad experience to the customer. Like they're very serious about all those things. And they certainly could charge a monthly fee to be a KDP author. They could charge more for their copies.
I wish you
But
wouldn't say these
Amazon's,
things.
oh, they
I don't
won't
want
do
you
it.
to give. I don't want you to put any ideas in their head.
They won't do it. They never will. In my opinion, time will tell. But I've talked to enough people at Amazon, like in the FBA program, they have something called multi-channel fulfillment. But make sure I come back to the other part. It's called MCF, multi-channel fulfillment. So if I have inventory in the Amazon warehouse, I can go in as a seller and say, hey, Amazon, I want you to ship this product to this address. So I can still sell on my own website, right? Still my inventory. I can do whatever I want. And they will charge me a pick, pack, and ship fee. But because of their agreements with FedEx and UPS and DHL and their own Amazon fulfillment network, the speed and cost is absurdly low. And I used to do this with eBay. I would like offer free 2-day shipping on my products that were at Amazon's warehouse, and I could charge more and get my products there faster. No, actually, I could charge less and get my products to the customer faster. To where who would buy from anybody else? This guy's offering a lower price and free 2-day shipping, and this guy's got a higher price and UPS ground. Of course, I'm going to be the one that sells out. And I talked to the guys that are running FBA, and I was like, yeah, your MCF rates are like really low. And they're like, really? You're the first person to tell us that. I was like, well, I'm not saying to raise them or anything. He's like, no, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. We have no plans in raising them because that's not a profit center for Amazon. And when it comes to KDP, Amazon wants to have every book available for download and for print on demand shipping to anywhere in the world in like 2 days or less. I'm sure that's probably one of their end goals. They want the content. They would rather have your content available to their customers through Amazon instead of having your content somewhere else. And so they don't care. They're not trying to make every penny. Now they need to not lose money. Like at your 120-page book for $2 used to be $2.15. That used to be the lowest price. Now they have added 20 cents, right? Because they have to stay in business. And it's one thing that I try to remind people of. Because when I say Amazon puts the customer first, yes, there is one thing they put first above the customer. They do have to stay in business. But if they don't, because if they don't stay in business, they can't serve their customers. So like from the seller side, they increase rates by like 5 cents on like 2-pound packages. Like they have to keep the programs in business so that they can provide this stuff to the customers. So like, no, a KDP membership, they could, everybody would pay it. It's not a profit center for them. Charging more on author copies, would we pay it? Of course we would. It's not a profit center for them. I don't see them ever changing that. So like, I'm not worried about Amazon listening to this and being like, oh, they think we're too cheap. Like Amazon's like, no,
Yeah.
we are thankful that we are able to be this cheap and attract so many authors so that we can provide such a breadth of selection to our customers.
Well, it also makes sense that if you're going to sell 1,000 books, let's just say through them, right? They'd rather make their money on the 1,000 books that they're going to sell to their customer. Not to mention that the customer is probably going to buy some other things while they're buying your book,
Yep.
and they're going to make money on on each one of those things. So they know it. They know they're getting. I mean, that's the thing when you think about it. They know their customer. They have metrics probably unlike any company, any retail company on the planet. I mean,
Oh, there's
it's
probably not a close second to somebody who
right. Because
analyzes data.
I even think of Walmart. It's like, Walmart, of course, tries to have an online presence, and they do, right? They have a very robust online presence, but they still don't have the breadth of data that Amazon has. So Amazon knows what they can get away with. And it's funny you talk about them being customer centric. they are very customer centric on a grand level. Sometimes it's a little harder on the solo level, right? On the macro level, like the I'm sure have bumped into frustrations, especially where authors have had their accounts shut down, not for some reason, but for absolutely no reason. And that is frustrating. Fortunately, we've been able to get, most of those. Actually, it's very interesting. When they do this, they keep selling the book, but they just don't let the author have access to,
They hold on
and
to
they
the
keep paying the
royalties.
royalty and everything. They just, but they don't give the author access to change anything. So, but that's
No,
a rare thing, fortunately.
it does happen. If anything that gets big enough is going to have, some of the exceptions go
It
along
is.
with it.
And I know it came about because they were trying to put the kibosh on bad actors around the world, and I think they just got a little too aggressive with
Yeah, because
however their bots or whatever however they did it.
well, that's the thing. They're using bots because they're at a scale where they can't hire individuals to go through every account. So they have to, write.
How many Chris Greens would they have to try to find to do this kind of
Oh yeah,
stuff?
I got a common name, man. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of me out there. So yeah, you write a line of code that just says anything with this, then all of a sudden, some people get caught
Boom.
up in it, and
Yeah.
it's just part of it's growing pains. Like Amazon doesn't want to do that, but they do try. The things that they do, they have to be automated to a certain extent, and that comes with some false flags that set off on the wrong accounts,
Yeah.
and you got to kind of roll with that to be able to be doing something that's as cutting edge as the print on demand stuff that Amazon's offering. Have you seen the video inside the Amazon print on demand warehouse?
No. I would
There's
love to
one.
see that.
I'll send it to you. It was one of the I think it's like ORMD5 or something, whatever it might be. One of the warehouses. They're almost like each warehouse was making their own channel, and I don't think it took off. Like most warehouses didn't actually make their own channel, but this one was they call it a MOD warehouse, a made on demand. Uh, and they walk through, they show how the books are printed and come through and get their covers, and it's not what I expected. Like there are more pieces to it where the books come through and when they get trimmed and they're all out
It's
of
not
order.
like it's not like through one machine and it just comes out the end, boom, done, and in a box
No,
and labeled.
they may have some of those, and
Yeah.
that's almost like another reason why I think people need to understand why this works. Like Amazon has these multi-million-dollar printers in multi-football field-sized warehouses, and they don't want them not running. So they're printing all their own books. They're printing all the books that are in the print on demand system get printed this way. And if the printer's not working, Amazon's like, "You got a book to print? Sure, sure. Like we've already bought this machine. We're already paying the labor to be here. Like
That's
we've got
that's
the
one of the things
capacity."
that's one of the things I think is amazing. So, right, Amazon's using this distributed print network, right? They're printing stuff all around really the world. I
The
mean,
world, sure.
maybe have some other countries involved now, but let's just take the U.S. They're printing all around the U.S. strategically based upon where do we have paper supply, where do we have the capacity on the printers. So sometimes it's what's going to be the shortest shipping channel, but it isn't
Yep.
always.
Nope.
Sometimes our books are in Central California, sometimes they're printed in San Bernardino, sometimes they're printed in Vegas, and sometimes they're printed in South Carolina. That distributed print network, you may remember during COVID and afterwards with the supply chain stuff, a lot of the traditional printers who had been all looking down their nose at print on demand for years suddenly found that all their supply for the books that they were launching next week were sitting on ships off the coast of California here waiting to get offloaded. Backlog. We had 150 freighters sitting offshore in Southern California just
Yeah.
waiting. And so they went to print on demand. They started leveraging print on demand. And so now even the big publishers are using this hybrid of offshore huge bulk prints with onshore print on demand using, as far as I can tell, Amazon's distributed print network. So it's a pretty cool, it's a great technology. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
One of the
It allows
things,
you to test, without spending money. You can test a new book, you can test the market, and then, hey, this is working. Let's invest in. It makes sense to buy overseas. We'll get them shipped in. We know there's demand for this versus
yeah,
we think there's demand for this. Who wants to spend a few $1,000s? Like,
yeah.
what? No, let's test it for free. Like, why would we spend money if we can test for free?
So, Yeah, it makes me think of, so Beatrix Potter, right, wrote her books, and right, she couldn't get the first Peter Rabbit book published the way she wanted, so she decided to pay to have 100 copies printed herself. And I'm thinking about the equivalent now would be like, I can't imagine what that cost her.
Oh,
Okay,
gee.
because the artwork and everything like that, and obviously she must not have been a pauper to make that happen. Well, now a pauper can make it happen for free.
Yep.
That's incredible. Yeah, you're gonna have to do some work, and if you're smart, you might hire an editor or a layout person or a cover artist, but you could do absolutely everything for free. That's one of the things I love. It's like this democratization of publishing. It no longer has to be filtered through the big five or something like that. It's
Yeah, there's no
fantastic.
gatekeepers. Uh,
We really are in a golden age of publishing. I don't know how much people recognize, but we really are, especially when you add
they don't.
audio to it and streaming audio to it and ebooks and all of this. This is unlike any other age.
I feel this is an age that's not going to go away anytime soon. I published my first book in 2011, back again when it was CreateSpace. And I remember thinking, I mean, the reason I wrote the book is because, we started a company doing a software for FBA sellers. So we were kind of first on a lot of the Amazon selling and FBA type market. So we got a lot of questions. It was new. So we were like, what is FBA? Why should I use it? Is it expensive? Just very common questions. But I was answering the same questions over and over and over and over again. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the most common questions. I'm gonna write this really long PDF. Please read the PDF. If you have questions, then please, by all means, contact us. I'll be happy to answer them. And then it got to be so long, and it kind of got broken up into chapters by accident. And I was like, you know what? This is kind of like a book. Like, this is like a lot of pages. Stumble onto CreateSpace, upload it, and I'm a published author, and everybody's treating me like I'm the next thing. Like, oh my gosh, look at this guy. He wrote the book on it. And the book was not well written. The book was not well edited. It had an uncapitalized I in it, which is, like, in my opinion, the worst possible typo you can make. Uh, but I got all of the benefits of published author status. I'm being invited to keynote at different Amazon events and different seller conferences. And I'm like, y'all know I'm just a regular guy, right? Like, I'm not an English major. I didn't take writing classes. I really just wrote this to get you guys to leave me alone. But no one cared about any of that. Now, like, so you're able, I make the case that because you're able to achieve published author status, there are incredible benefits that come along with that. Your book doesn't have to be amazing or perfect. It can't be bad. Like, don't get me wrong. You can put out some mediocre content and get a lot of benefits from being published author. And if your content isn't amazing, I would encourage you to, like, build off of that at least. At least your next book can be better and better. So I don't want people cheating the system and uploading garbage just to achieve published author status. However, I will say that achieving published author status is a heck of a lot easier than it ever has been in the history of the world. And you're able to
Yeah,
leverage that to build social media profiles, to achieve speaking gigs, to build a community, whatever it might be.
absolutely. And yeah, I mean, that phrase "done is better than perfect." The first time I heard that, it kind of rankled me, because it was like, no, that's just an excuse to do low quality.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, it is literally that thing of, hey, get your book out there, do something. Don't you, because it will never be perfect. Right. Um, and then the other thing that people don't recognize, and there's a section in The Power of the Published, my book, about the power of the unread book. And there's incredible power in an unread book. You think about it, you write a book, you give it to a business prospect, let's say, and they take it home and they never read it. Okay. Or they leave it at work and they never read it. But first they discovered you're an author. Wow, that's a big deal. And that's rare, right? You're an author. Now they look at the title and the subject, and they go, okay, you're clearly an expert on your topic, because otherwise you wouldn't have written a book about it. Okay. Clearly you're a big enough deal that there is a book about it. So you must not be some fly by night, flash in the pan kind of thing, right? And that book, every time they see it, even if, and of course, we're all allergic to throwing books away, right? Like,
It's hard.
you
Yeah.
don't throw
It's
books
silly.
away, right?
Yeah.
So odds are, even if they never touch that book, even if they never open that book, and all they ever see is the cover, they are going to have this constant, probably for years, reminder of you and your expertise sitting on their desk or on their nightstand or in their bookcase or whatever. And the funny thing is even when they do finally bring themselves to the point where they might throw your book away, which I promise you will be years down the road, what are they going to do with it? They're probably going to take it to a bookstore or, to a used bookstore, or they're going to give it to a friend. So that book is still doing something. And what's amazing to me, right? $2 minimum thing. Think about how much it costs to put a coffee mug on your business prospects, a branded mug on your business prospect's desk, probably $6. And what will that do? Does that scream your expertise? Will they have any aversion to throwing it away?
I will throw away a coffee mug
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
in a hot second.
this is the most durable marketing tool an entrepreneur can ever create. It is the most powerful marketing tool that they can ever create because it screams authority unlike anything. And it really is the only marketing tool you'll ever create that'll serve you for a lifetime. Every other thing, I don't care how great your video might be, or this graphic or whatever. I don't even care if you were seen on Oprah or the Today Show or whatever. 20 years from now, that's not going to matter, but your book will.
Yeah, no one's watching 20-year-old Oprah reruns.
I don't even know if they're watching week-old Oprah reruns.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're available to watch, even if you actively wanted to watch them.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably on one of the streaming services.
One of the things that Nick and I talked about, I had this, I don't know, this quote kind of popped into my head, and I was like, wait a minute. So I sent it to Nick right before, so I didn't forget it. I said, a book is just a book. Unless it's your book, then it's an asset. Because I generally, I'm not a fiction guy. Look, if you want to write fiction, knock yourself out. I'm not your guy. Like, I can maybe help you get it into some reader's hands, but not my specialty. But if you're using your book for business, it's an asset, and it's your asset. And it's not just physical, it's also a digital asset. And you can do so many things once you have this. And another thing that I kind of said this in passing, and Nick really picked up on this as well, is that Amazon packages have a 100% open rate. You get an Amazon package.
That's a great point.
Even if you forgot what, I'm sure you've had an Amazon package show up and you're like, I don't even remember ordering anything. And you forgot, you ordered some toothpaste 2 days ago or whatever it is, but you get excited, then you open it because, we're humans and I don't know how to exactly describe,
it's a gift. Someone sent you a gift.
Yeah, but it's physical, right? Now, if you sent me a PDF in email and you're like, hey man, I spent this much money on this PDF, I'd be like, I don't care. Like, I can't imagine a PDF that I would get excited about.
You're crazy to spend that much money on that PDF. That's what you'd probably.
Yeah, you spent money on a PDF. Are you kidding me? Like, why would you do that? But a physical product in the mail. So, because I am a huge advocate of single unit author copies being sent to people. You send them as gifts. I wish they would. I mean, you can do it at retail to where you buy the retail package. So I'd be like, you could send your book, then also add Nick's book. Nick has the perfect book. I'm so jealous of this book in the sense of this is the perfect companion book, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can always add this book to say, hey, this book helps you get the most out of the books that you read.
Out of my book. That's right.
Every book, right? Your book, someone else's book. So Nick, it's such an easy 2-pack. So then you can give somebody a book as well as your book. So it doesn't look as self-promotional. Not that I think too many people are reading too far into it. Be like, hey, I got a book from like this guy sent his own book. Okay. Yeah. I might have it back in my mind. I'm like, a little self-promotional, but I appreciate the thing. But you could always add someone else's book, especially when they're fairly low price. Like your paperback right now ships for $7, right? Like to get on somebody's radar with a physical product where you open it up, and I'm assuming you have some contact information, like, hey, you can contact me. Here's my social media. Here's how, that's worth a lot more than $7.20. But it's to you, it's worth so much more because it's your book, right? Like I don't get as much benefit if I sent somebody your book. Like they might be happy and tell me thanks, but it's not the value that you would get out of them getting your book. And it's again, all these marketing doors that open simply because you put in the work. And this is what I think it keeps a lot of people down or from doing it. Working for yourself for hundreds of hours, potentially for $0 an hour, with the expectation that something good is going to happen. And they hear that and they're like, nope, I'm out. Not going to do that. I'm like, well, the people who do are going to win. So when you're ready to win, come along.
it's the entrepreneur's journey, right? I mean, you think about it, an entrepreneur is going to work crazy numbers of hours for little to no money at the beginning to
With
get
no
their
guarantees.
with no
Yeah.
guarantees to get their business and brand off the ground. And I think authorship, every author is an entrepreneur at one level or another. They all have different levels of risk tolerance and all of that, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's but the nice thing I think is that there are a lot of people who just have a passion to get the message out, almost regardless of what ROI they might be looking for. Um, for our authors, it's like our authors, because they are entrepreneurs and business executives and speakers, coaches, consultants, etc. They're going to make their ROI in spades, and they're not going to make it $5 or $6 or $7 at a time through a book royalty, right? They're going to make it 4 or 5 digits at a time through new speaking opportunities, increased fees, new clients, access to a higher level of clientele, new opportunities, right? All of those things. And so the ROI becomes pretty easy. I mean, it's not a difficult equation to look and go, okay, is this going to pay off in the process? Not that royalties are bad. And by the way, self-publishing royalties, as you know, Chris, are miles better than traditional publishing royalties. For your watchers and listeners may not know this, but traditional publishing percentage of royalties are often in the 8 to 12% range.
Ooh.
And that's 8 to 12% after deduction for printing, shipping, marketing, and any other thing they can possibly pile in there before they make that calculation. So you might make $1 on a book, but of course that's only after any advance has been repaid. So because if they did pay you any sort of advance, that's got to get repaid. And
Forgot
then
about that.
whereas, I mean, in KDP, if you publish a book for $19.95, you might make $9 on it. Like that's insane. I love that. I love that math,
Yeah.
But again, most of our authors, that's a secondary benefit. The primary benefit is what will this book do for their brand, right? And you just can't you can't overstate that. It's like it's huge. In fact, by the way, I call a book the closest thing you get to a silver bullet in marketing.
Yeah.
In any marketing piece anyone creates, right? You can only target a certain audience. It's going to expire. Will anyway. The book hits every point of a marketing tool, and pretty amazing. So it's bad for vampires, I suppose, but no, that's not silver. Yeah, it is. Vampires are silver bullets, right? Or is that werewolves? I always get it wrong.
I think a silver bullet would kill a lot of
Both.
things.
Maybe it's both.
Like
I can't
I don't
remember.
know who's immune to silver bullets. I think you get shot
Yeah,
with something, it's
yeah,
going to hurt one way or the other. Uh,
absolutely.
a silly, like I remember. I don't want to go too far off topic. You got some great phrases. I like that you said every author is an entrepreneur, and I almost think you should also add right after that, every entrepreneur needs to be an author, because they're missing the point. Not missing the point. It's just they
Missing the
don't realize what's
opportunity
out
for
there.
sure.
There are so many opportunities that it's hard to keep up with. Like I don't fault or blame anybody for not realizing some of the exciting, powerful things that are out there. But then, like just like you said, I think people get caught up in the I want to be a bestseller. I want to make millions of dollars off my book, and I'm like, whoa, slow down, not going to happen, right? Never say never. However, in my opinion, no, you're not going to make a ton of money off the royalties of your book. But your book will open the doors. You will make money with your book, not make money on your book. Now, the most money I made with my book, I launched a book. I launched online arbitrage in 2014. And this was back when they sent paper checks. So CreateSpace sent me a paper check for over $70,000 for 1 month
Holy
of sales.
cow!
Now,
Oh my
there's
gosh!
well, slow down. How do you think I did? Do you want 10 seconds to think about how I did that? Because I
I'm
think
gonna
you're
guess
thinking I
that
sold it for like
you might have bought some of your own books.
$9.99. No
No,
way.
how?
Nope.
Tell me how.
It was priced at 300. So you don't have to
That's
sell that many when you sell at such a higher price point. And this is the first book that I did this way. This is my first book published in 2011. I published a redone version in 2012. And then as I'm publishing this next book, and it's about buying products online to resell on Amazon for a profit. So it's money driven, it's entrepreneur driven, it's in the make money space. But it was I presented it as an online course which at the time you could charge 100, 200, 300, $600 for an online course. So I was like, wait a minute. Goes back to like a little bit of proprietary insight. Like, I know how to make an online course. I know how to present information in a way that people are going to be able to make money with it. So it's going to be kind of an ROI positive type of purchase. I know how to self-publish. What's stopping me from, instead of putting these videos on a Udemy site where you have to like buy a ticket to entry, buy your ticket on Amazon with this book, and it's got QR. I was putting QR codes in my books in 2014, which I thought I was the first one. I found a book from like 2011 or something that did it, so I'm not the first. But now everybody's using QR codes. Like, it's more common knowledge. So it's
Well,
QR
what's
codes.
funny about that is QR codes had a heyday, then they fell out of favor, and then honestly, especially with COVID,
COVID brought them back.
pushed it right back up, and now they're ubiquitous, which is great, I think.
Well, now
It's
the
kind of
phones will pick them up
podcasting.
natively. Yeah,
Podcasting did the same thing, right?
yeah.
It had its heyday, I think, starting in like 2008 or something like that, and then big, and then cratered, and now it is back and bigger than ever, right?
Well, people
It's
love audio only, so they can drive their car, they can work
Yep.
out at the gym, they can do chores around the house, and instead of thinking you have to watch a video. I'm the same way.
Right.
I will listen to a video. I will rarely sit down and watch a
Mhm.
video, let alone a video like this. Like,
I mean,
hey, if
who's going to
anybody's
want to
watching
look
this,
at us? Who's going to
that's
want
what I'm
to
saying.
look at our faces? I mean, for
I'm
crying out
thankful that
loud.
people are watching this on YouTube, and you enjoy watching us, and you can see the suit of armor in the background. Like, great. However, I would recommend you can get 99.9% of this by listening to it, and as well as
Well,
doing
and
something else.
yeah, and even then, they're probably not glued to the screen. Man, I sure hope they aren't.
No, but hopefully people realize they have that option.
Yeah.
So the end of the story, like, I publish it as a book. It's thick. I mean, it's a textbook size, 8.5 by
Well,
11,
I see it, and you're
maxed out
selling for
pages.
$100 now. You've
It's
got
come down. Yeah,
226 reviews on it, which is phenomenal.
it should have
So,
more. I've sold a lot of
well, that
those.
may just be that edition because that was
I did it
updated.
updated. Yeah, I don't even know if you can still find the original edition.
That's the
I
2015 edition is the one that popped up there.
Yeah,
Um,
there's
uh,
one there. There's a 2021, and it's not my area of specialty anymore, so I don't promote it
oh
very
yeah,
much.
there's
Uh,
another. Well, oh heck, you have also one it's just straight arbitrage 2020 update. You've got your ratings on
yeah,
it.
that's my. I use that as an example of like a established authority. Like $10. I don't expect to make any money off of this book, but I do think there's a huge opportunity, and feel free to steal this, of publishing higher priced books. At CreateSpace, do you know the max price you used to be able to publish at CreateSpace?
It's a crazy number, right? How
It
much?
was three
Oh,
two
I was
hundred
thinking it was
two
like
thousand nine hundred
500.
ninety nine dollars and
Holy
99 cents.
cow!
Now it's 250. Unfortunately, I wish it could be higher. Now you certainly can sell your own book through FBA as a Seller Central, charge whatever you want. But I think there's huge room for $250 books if you're providing $250 worth of value.
Hmm.
And I would make the case you can do that through online course material that you would normally put as an online course on Udemy or Skillshare or
Hmm.
Teachable, but you give access to it through the printed pages of a book, as well as including downloadable links to design assets and templates and all kinds of different things that you get access to if you have these pieces of paper. And that's how
Yeah,
and then
I
imagine the giveaways, right? You're talking about sending your book to someone's desk for $7. Imagine for $7 sending them a $250 book that they get, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, are you serious? Like, this is $250 on Amazon." That price anchor is on Amazon. That's the value that they're perceiving getting.
yeah,
Um,
I've got a case study in this as well. We had a guy who came to us, and he has a roofing company, and he had been compiling a list of shingles that are discontinued. Okay, and taking pictures of each one, et cetera. And I know that for most of us, we're like, well, what? Why? And he wanted to publish a book of discontinued shingles. And as he explained it, it made perfect sense. It was as a roofer, if you go onto a job and a few shingles have blown off the roof because of the storm or whatever, if you can prove that those shingles are discontinued, the insurance company has to pay for an entire roof. And so a little
ooh,
patch job becomes a whole new roof for that roofer and for the customer. So you can imagine the value of having a list of shingles that are discontinued and proof of that they're discontinued. So he sells that for $50 It's only, I think it's under 100 pages. He sells it for $50 a pop on Amazon and through his own website. And it's what value is there. And I love your model of putting your course in a book. Oh, and then how many people give you this? Well, but if they buy the book, then they won't buy the course.
Whatever.
Right.
No.
And it kind of like, well, but if I put it in a free YouTube video, they won't buy my book or whatever. And the truth is, they'll buy all of it. They'll buy all of it because they want them in different forms. Oh, great example. The Martian, right? Andy Weir wrote the book, The Martian, right? And that's the one that Matt Damon starred in. Love that movie. So what? He blogged that entire book, put it all out in the market for free, and then turned around and sold it as a 99-cent Kindle. And I think sold like, I don't know, 3,000 copies in a week or something like that. Then got picked up by a traditional publisher. Then it was made into a movie and all of that. But perfect example of, but if I put it out in the market for free, no one will buy it. Well, no, obviously that's not the case. They wanted it. They wanted it all in one place.
Yeah, people have a lot of misconceptions, and I don't fault people for them. They make sense when they think about it. It's like, well, if I can watch these videos for free on YouTube, why would I buy the book? And it's like, well, if you really want to know, it's because people who pay actually pay attention. So feel free to go watch these videos. Now, my videos weren't publicly available. They were, I think I made the first book, I made them just unlisted on YouTube. Some of my other books, I started putting like password protected on Vimeo. Although today I would probably just make them unlisted on Vimeo just to make sure there's no ads in them or anything. Just because, hey, if you're buying it, I don't expect you to watch some ad from some YouTube company. But people get worried about, I mean, I'm sure you've had this conversation with clients. Well, what if I found my Kindle book on a foreign website? Someone stole my content. It's like, so what? Right? I tell them,
Good.
be worried if no one's stealing your stuff. Like if your stuff is not worth stealing, you're in trouble, right? Because they will steal anything with a hint of success and just rip it and try to offer it somewhere else. And you know who buys stuff that's stolen? Nobody, right? Like if someone is going to buy a stolen product or download a stolen product, they weren't going to buy your stuff anyway. So I would rather they download my stolen product than not, because then they might see, oh, this guy's really good, and they come find me on social media, they join a community, and
Yeah,
then they feel
because
bad that they stole it. So then they end up buying something anyway. Like all that's out of my control anyway. So I don't worry about any of that.
well, it's like Chris. There was that guy, and I don't remember his name. He was finding that there was someone in Russia that was printing and selling signed copies of his book in Russia.
Signed even. Wow, that's
Signed copies
gutsy.
of his
Wow.
book. So obviously the guy
Flattered.
was.
I would be flattered if someone did that for
That's
me.
exactly right. Because A, what were you going to really do about it anyway? But B, embrace it, because here's somebody that's spreading your message and your brand. And provided that you have given people other opportunities to engage with you, maybe even to buy from you, man, that's just marketing. That's great.
It's free.
Get it out there more, because you're not going to get rich on your book anyway. It's the other things around. Even, I mean, even the most famous authors, they make their money on speaking and on other opportunities than they do on
Yeah.
book royalties.
I'm sure you know Hal Elrod in Miracle Morning. So he contacted me through a mutual friend because there were all these Chinese sellers selling copies of his book through FBA. And as an expert in that field, as soon as I looked at it, I was like, okay, I can tell you exactly what's happening. So these were Chinese manufacturers who were not authorized to produce this, but because the book was such a good seller and because of the access of the FBA program, they were like, we're going to just print unauthorized copies of these top selling books and send them to FBA, and we'll be the lowest price and we'll get some sales. So I was able to help him, get those eliminated. That wasn't hard once you kind of identified what it was, but it just shows the extent that people will go to make a quick buck. But I mean, if I was, I don't know if he did anything with this information, but I would take that and I would be posting all over social media, be like, guys, my book is so popular that this is what's happening, because you can just
Heck
turn
yeah.
it all around. Can you believe
Be
my book's
flattered,
so
right?
popular? And you can't, I mean, I don't have that story. No one's done that. I mean, someone did take my online arbitrage book. They scanned it, they ripped it into a PDF, and they were selling it on eBay. And I had eBay take that down. And there were some sites, and I actually contacted the host of those sites, and they took some of those things down. But in hindsight, I wouldn't have cared. Like I wasn't losing anything. There's content to be made around it, but I do try to help people understand. People who pay are the ones who pay attention. They want to buy something from you. Self-published book is a great way to just give people the option to buy something from you without you having to buy inventory and ship products and all these things. Because if you're helping people, especially through social media, a lot of them are going to want to support you somehow. It's that law of reciprocity. Like, oh my gosh, I've gotten so much from this guy's, content on Instagram. Can I buy something? It's like when you go on tour, on vacation, and you buy something at the tourist shop that you're not ever going to care about ever again.
Yeah.
But you buy it's some part of human psychology where we want to buy a piece of an experience or buy something because we had a good time somewhere.
Yeah.
KDP lets you do that quickly and easily and free.
I don't know if you know Richard Bliss. He is a foremost LinkedIn expert. And when I mean expert, he underwrites the largest annual analysis of the LinkedIn algorithm, and publishes it. He's a player at the top level. It's not like there's a lot of people who call themselves LinkedIn experts. Anyway, so Richard was telling me one time that he had put together some sort of a course and decided that he was going to launch it via Kickstarter. And so they did a Kickstarter thing. And I think one of the primo top offer was, hey, if you put $1,000 into it, or maybe it was $10,000, I don't remember what the number was. I'll come, Richard Bliss will come present this material to your team in person. Okay. That was like the top level, and 6 people took them up on the very top level, and he called them up and said, okay, let's schedule this out. And 201, everyone said, well, actually, no, you don't have to come out. We just wanted to thank you. Like, we just wanted to support what you're doing, and so it's that whole thing of people engage with you and your brand and your content. They do want to reward you for it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a lesson people need to learn sometimes. When I was doing the FBA, an Amazon conference that I was frequently at, afterwards people go to the hotel bar or a restaurant or something, and people were very quick to try to buy me drinks because they read my book, they got so much out of it, helped them start their business. And I would frequently kind of turn them down and be like, hey, I felt I was doing it from a good place to be like, oh, it's cool, man. You don't have to, not realizing that what they were actually doing is that's how they were saying thank you. And I was actually doing it myself a little bit. Yeah. So I feel bad for some of those because, they're coming up. That's their gesture of how to say thanks, is buying somebody a beer. I have no problem with somebody buying me a beer, but I thought I was being nice and being like, I appreciate it, but, save your $5 or whatever. But I had to learn that lesson, not the hard way. I didn't have any really negative consequences from that, other than I feel a little bad that, I probably hurt a few people's feelings, not overtly and not in a huge way, but in hindsight, I would do it differently. I'd be like, I would understand that's what they were doing and graciously accept and be, thankful that my book was able to help them. But I see that now. And so I try to understand when people do things, that's their way of saying thank you. And, when you're able to help people, even inadvertently or by accident through social media, you're going to get some of these responses where they want to do something for you. So let them.
I think that's cool. And by the way, the next time you're in that circumstance, you could always do it this way. You say, you know what? I love that. Thank you. If you can buy me a beer, if I can also buy you one. And then they're going to be like, that dude's cool. He bought me a beer.
Yeah. There's a whole book in there, probably like how to build a brand by buying beer. Yeah. The beer drinker's brand building guide.
You just better be careful that not too many people come up to you with that desire, or you're going to have a really rough evening and morning.
Have 18 beers, half drink beers in front of you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, dude, I love what you've done because you've published a workbook. I know we're a little bit over time, but I think we're having a good time with this because the workbook thing is almost like a 2.0 thing that I'm trying to get a lot of kind of authors to understand. Yeah. Is like, because you could write a workbook for, James Clear's Atomic Habits if you wanted to. Just make sure you don't step on brand. Oh, tons of people have, and they sell as well. But you could also make a workbook for your own book, and now you have 2 books you can bundle. Either buy this and I'll buy the book and I'll send you the workbook for free. Like, there's so many cool things that you can do. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, I would call it like almost like a 2.0 version of this. And once you understand it, then you understand, wait, I can get creative with this and I can use this in ways that maybe people hadn't really thought of before.
Well, you think about it, people have already done so much work to create their book. Why not leverage it every way you can? And so it should be an audiobook. It should be a workbook. Of course, it should be a Kindle and paperback and perhaps hardcover, though that's not necessary for everybody. Um, but you think about it, when people go to Amazon, what influences they're buying? And gosh, Chris, you're an expert at this. One of those things that influences them is when they see the box that contains the formats. And if they see the book is only an ebook, it's not a real book. If they see the book is only a paperback, it's not a real book. If it is a Kindle and a paperback, that's the minimum to be considered a real book. But if they see that there's an audio or a hardcover, now it must really be a book. I had this one author come to me one time and he goes, "Oh yeah, I don't consider it a book if it doesn't have an audio." And it's a pretty brutal statement, but there's some truth to it. It's like if everyone's got limited time. We're only going to read so many books in our lifetime. And having an audiobook or a workbook or a hardcover is like this stamp of approval that says, oh, this actually is a real book, not just an average book.
Yeah, it's a
So,
signal to the customer. They're like they've invested enough in this. And I think from a lot of customers' point of view, they're like, oh, they must have an editor and an agent, and they must have spent thousands of dollars to get this out there. And they
right.
must have gone through, and then whether it's necessarily true in every aspect of those things, that's the common perception. I feel that's going to be the perception for the foreseeable future. It was like when I published my first book, I thought, oh, for Pete's sakes, this was so easy. I can't believe how much, benefit I'm getting out of this just because I uploaded a PDF. And I saw that and I was worried that, wait a minute, everybody's going to figure this out. Everybody's going to be a published author. And when everyone's a published author, it's not going to be special anymore. Like, oh, shoot. Well, at least I got in like before it ended. That was 2011. I see that slowing down. Not at all. I was completely wrong about that. Published author status means even more today than back then.
Yeah.
I don't see that changing in the near future. I could be wrong, but as someone, and as you as well, who teaches self-publishing and teaches like freely, like guys, this is out there. If you need help, we're here, but you can all do it all by yourself. Not everybody does it. It's still hard enough that only the few are going to actually sit down and do the work. And I hope nobody makes this. I hope everybody publishes. I hope everybody learns how to do this and put me out of business to where I don't have to talk about this anymore. Because I feel I'm in this business to tell people about what's available that they simply don't know about. The
Yeah.
reaction that you get, I'm sure the reaction from your clients where they're like, I'm a published author and I am seeing tangible benefits from it. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you helped me
We
through this.
we have them film themselves when they open their book. So we
Oh,
send them the
smart,
first
smart.
copy of the book. We have it, we have Amazon gift wrap it, and and so we watch the videos of them opening it, and it's just like, oh, it's cool. For some people, it's an extremely emotional experience.
Yep.
But I can tell you just from my first experience, and you were there too. Like that first reaction when you first saw your book on Amazon, like that is a crazy. You're like, wait, here's my book on the biggest bookstore in the world, and it looks just like every New York Times bestseller out there.
Yep.
Same page, same format, everything like that. And then as you do your launch and you're like, wait, here I am. Andy Andrews is one of my very favorite authors. He's like one of these guys that he's the most famous guy that nobody knows. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever.
There's a few of those.
Fantastic author. And I'm beating him. I'm like, what the heck? And then pretty soon I'm beating everybody in my categories. And it's like, oh, this is crazy. And what I never expected the change that would make to my internal dialogue. I fully expected when I published the book that it would have my first book, that it would have an impact professionally in regards to the authority that I would have and the expert status and all of that. I fully expected that. But what I didn't expect is how much it changed me internally with knowing that I was an author, that not everybody is, that you're really as an author, you're breathing rare air. And man, case in point, and maybe I'll make this the last story. I was working with a client in Virginia, and I was flying back to Fresno, and I was sitting next to a guy, and I had gotten bumped to first. I gotten bumped to first class, which rarely happens to me, but I'm really happy I did. And I'm sitting next to this guy, and we get to talking, and I ask him who he is, and it turns out he is kind of old money here in Fresno. He used to have a business that served the most wealthy people in town, and I was like, he was a mover and shaker. And I was like, wow, this is cool. I get to meet this guy. And he asks me, so, what do you do? And I go, well, I'm an Amazon best-selling author, and I help other people write books. And he stops me. He goes, wait, you're a best-selling author? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I've never met one. I was like, wait, what? And like, here he is, the mover and shaker, old money, rubbing elbows with all the other money in town, etc. And I held unique status for him.
Yep.
That completely changed the conversation. And this is something that your listeners, your watchers who publish their books will experience. This is something that I just don't even know how else you get there, but pretty amazing. And you think about it, how many people, I did this in a room one time. I said, I said, okay, how many people in the room, my mom happened to be in the room, by the way, it's significant. How many people in the room have ever met a doctor? Everyone raise their hand. How many people in the room have met an attorney? Everyone in the room raises their hand. How many people have met an author? About 3% of the people in the room raised their hand. Said, how many of you have met a best-selling author? 1% in the room raised her hand, and that was my mom. So, there you go. It is truly rare air.
It's fun to be able to demonstrate it so easily to where people can see and be like, look around like, wait a minute. And then if you just lead them to the next step of like, and you can be not just an author, but a best-selling author. Uh, I
That's
do
it.
think it's not that hard to become a bestseller on Amazon with a little bit of strategy uh, but yeah, if you use social media leading up to the launch of a book, I'm close to guaranteeing bestseller status. I hate to guarantee anything because like you never know, right? But holy smokes, I would make the case that if you follow some pretty simple steps and put in a little bit of time and effort on social media and put out a good product and follow some simple steps, especially using the KDP promotional options, have some smart landing pages, build a little bit of an email list. Yes, anybody can achieve, and of course, it has to be a good product. I don't recommend putting out garbage products. But if you have at least a minimally viable product for a book, you can achieve bestseller status. You can take those screenshots, and when you're number one and you're outselling like Gary Vee in the entrepreneurship category, you take that screenshot and you tweet at Gary Vee and be like, "Hey, I'm just saying, Gary, I'm outselling you for this 1 hour of this one day,"
I
and you're honest about
love
it.
that. That's
I,
such a great strategy, Chris.
I didn't even bring that up because I thought you already knew how to do that.
Oh, come on. No, that's great. I'm going to pass that to my authors. It's one of
Do it.
those, it's like it's obvious, but obviously I'm not smart enough to have come up with it myself. So,
It's a
um,
friendly jab, right? You're not putting anybody down. You're punching up, right? You're like, hey,
yeah,
I
that's
know,
right.
Gary, you sell a million times more books than I do. However, for this
Not
5 minute
today.
window, I am ranked higher than celebrity in your niche. And then you can
That's
use
right.
those things with real screenshots, no Photoshop, and say, look,
Yep.
my book was outselling this marketer or this influencer or whoever it was. I actually had, when I launched my last book in the entrepreneurship category, I was the number one, number two, number three, because I made my other books free as well when my launch book was free. So I was number one, two, three, and four in the entrepreneurship category for like, I don't know, an hour or something. But you can
That's
bet I
awesome.
took that screenshot so I can use it in marketing and be like, guys,
Absolutely.
it doesn't take as many sales as you think in a certain amount of time to become a bestseller and be at the top of the charts. And once you do that, you can get your own screenshots that you can then use for marketing, and they're yours. You own them. You can say with a straight face, number one new release, number one bestseller, number one in this category, outselling X, Y, and Z, and so and so.
Absolutely.
That's your marketing package. I
Yep.
mean, you could sell that as a package. Like, do
That's
this, and
it.
I will hand you a marketing
Yep.
package that will work every single time. And then give
That's
them
it.
advice about how to interact on social media in a friendly way. So you don't, we're not trying to jab at somebody in a in a non-friendly way. But yeah, I don't think Gary would mind if I tweeted at him. So
Yeah.
appreciate this. This has been really great. Where's
What
the
a
best place
blast.
for, if people want to learn more about you and what you do and your books, where's the best place for
Yeah,
them to go?
easy. Ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. You can schedule a book consultation with me personally. Also, you can get a download of my book, The Power of the Published, at my podcast perk, and happy to have a conversation. It'd be a blast. Thanks again, Chris. This has been really wonderful.
This has been fun. I knew this one was going to be fun. As soon as I saw your profile and what your business did, I was like,
We
yeah,
could talk all day long. There's no doubt. And I hope we do that. Have a chance to do that over a beer sometime.
I'm sure we'll do another episode or we'll cross paths at somewhere. And a shout out, thank you to Nick Hutchison, author of Rise of the Reader. He is the one that is connecting a lot of the people who have been joining
Absolutely.
us on the Authorpreneur podcast, where
Yeah,
we
Nick.
talk about books and publishing books, and whether it's self-publishing or even traditional publishing, but then using that book specifically to build a brand, to build a business, to acquire clients. If you just want to self-publish, we can help you with that too. However, I think the best use of self-publishing is to leverage the power of published author status to grow a brand, grow a business. It's wide open. If you can't tell the enthusiasm in both of our voices, I don't know what else to tell you.
We clearly hate what we're doing.
It's refreshing, and I would make the case that emotion, enthusiasm does come through the internet and through video, to where you can tell when someone is being transparent and authentic, and they actually really like what they do, and they actually really believe in what they're talking about. And yeah, without a doubt, we both believe in the power of self-publishing. It is an amazing time. It's only going to get better, in my opinion. It's not a hurry up and do it because it's going away kind of thing. Although if you wait,
No, it's
you're just
hurry
going
up
to,
and do it so you can take advantage of it right away. Put it
yeah,
to
you
work
wait a
for you.
year, you're going to be a year late. You might as well do it, right now. So learn everything that you can. Reach out to me
That's
if
it.
I can help. Reach out to Everett if he can help. There's a lot of resources out there. So please take action. You'll be so glad you did. It is such a rewarding feeling to be a published author, and then things get really exciting. So thanks again. I'm sure we'll follow up and do this again. And
Thanks,
yeah,
Chris.
we'll talk
Take care.
self-publishing over a beer. All right.
Thank you, man.
Thanks. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Authorpreneur Podcast. If you'd like more information about this episode's guest, you can find links to their books, websites, and social media profiles in the show notes and video description. If you're an author or business owner who's interested in learning more about how you can use books and published author status to market and grow your business or personal brand, or if you're an aspiring author looking for more information about the publishing process, you can find more information and request an author audit at authorpreneur.com. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to recommend someone, please reach out via email to chris@authorpreneur.com. Remember, a book is just a book, but when it's your book, it's an asset. #Authorpreneur.